Globalization, Menace or Necessity by Madeline Boone, Megan Penning, Christopher Torres, and Haley Leger. Identity Perspectives on Globalization. Because of globalization, the world has seemingly benefited from the cooperative and sometimes competitive nature of the relations countries develop using modern technology. However, it is equally apparent that as the world progresses, social and economic inequality remain the scourge to developing countries. Despite the many inequalities imposed by globalization, economist Martin Wolf suggests that there may be a silver lining in the mutual benefit between developed and developing countries, stating, "The notion that international economic integration necessarily makes the rich richer and the poor poorer is nonsense." Economic inequality persists in Asia primarily due to the ethnic segregation which is evident in Asian preferences to remain homogeneous in economic relations. A few examples of this homogeneity can be found in the exclusive and discriminatory nature of Japanese business practices, as well as the tendency for Asian relations to form from family ties, a term known by the Chinese as quanzi. In addition to segregation, Asia is also affected by crony capitalism, which offers unfair advantages to historically successful industries, undercutting opportunities for growing industries. In the periodical The Crony Economy, Robert Verbruggen expresses concern over the existence of crony capitalism in the United States, which highlights the extent to which crony capitalism can inflict inequality. Latin American governments are well known for their affinity to promote lopsided interests of the leading political party, which has led to a repetitive cycle of political revolution that consistently fails to correct the mistakes of the last established government and thus fails to develop. Teichmann affirms the notion that Spanish conquest was the attributing factor to which Latin American governments undertake the features of being both ethnically and culturally exclusive. The concept of rent seekers is indicative of the economic inequality that can be imposed by established Latin American governments, as they receive little to no opposition from the government, allowing them to conduct business practices designed to minimize competition and maximize profits. Experts believe that inequality in Latin America stems from the imperialistic intervention that constricts Latin America's domestic operations, an ongoing cycle of political revolution, and a lack of social and economic reformation. Sub-Saharan Africa is both poor and massively divided, which are both factors that seem to supplement each other. Due to this division, democracy has been widely unsuccessful in the region. The widespread humiliation of women in sub-Saharan African culture is directly responsible for the region's increase in AIDS. From this issue, monopolization is highlighted by Africa's inability to acquire expensive retroviral drugs to alleviate the epidemic. Lower public sector administration is near non-existent in the Middle East and North Africa, as they are merely a front amidst the established monarchies and autocracies. These states abuse their powers to achieve economic gain with a clear disregard for the domestic society that inhabits them. An example of this can be found in the government favoritism of oil-based industries, which has led to the neglect of multiple other industries and the subsequent brain drain that has plagued the region. The marginalization of women is popular in the Middle East and North Africa and is solely derived of traditions and values. Critical theory perspectives on globalization. Western growth employed the use of globalization, which condemned other countries to mediocrity as the imperialistic titans exploited their people and land. Historically, imperialism has been the catalyst to which less developed countries have been harmed immensely via the exploitation that is commonly associated with imperialism. This can be found in the colonialism movement in which European states exploited poorer lands around the globe. From overexploitation originates the concept of the dependency theory, which alludes to the idea that developing countries now rely on outside intervention to sustain its well-being. The metropole is integral when assessing the inequality derived from imperialistic presence within these developing countries. From the metropole, it is believed that developed countries impede development and increase systematic inequality via the increased dependency that these regions have on outside support. MNCs, or multinational corporations, are regarded to be incredibly unethical due to their ability to circumvent the law to extort the local population of developing countries in hopes of maximizing profits. MNCs are known to be incredibly corrupt, immune to government intervention, and extremely unethical. An example of this can be found in Iqbal Masih's experience with the Pakistani carpet industry, which exploited Masih and his parents in the form of bonded labor that forced Masih to work under strenuous conditions whilst accumulating more debt. Marginalization is incredibly apparent in today's world and has been proven to be incredibly prevalent amongst women and indigenous people. Today, globalization persists due to the fact that global markets favor products from developed countries. This long existing advantage to developed countries has given critical theorists the notion that these inequalities may always persist and justifies the division of labor. Whilst it is incredibly apparent that globalization has its caveats ranging from the negative effects of mass exploitation, systematic inequality, and discrimination experienced in these regions, it is also worth noting that without globalization, it is speculated by some that these countries would be worse off without the support from outside intervention. The question of whether globalization is a menace or necessity is incredibly difficult to determine, so it is up to you, the viewer, to decide for yourself.